Okay, so welcome to episode 3 of Mr. K is Wrong. And this episode is titled Debunking the Lies, debunking a MAGA meme on ivermectin, voter ID, and borders. So, who is Mr. K? He's somebody that I used to know and got along with reasonably well, but in more recent years, he's gone down a far right rabbit hole that's just embarrassing. And in fact, in the last episode, if you can check it out, you'll find that I interviewed two former Nazis about whether Mr. K's meme is anti Semitic or at least Nazi adjacent. And guess what? They agreed that his meme is indeed anti Semitic. So go ahead and check that episode out. I think I think it's a little bit informative and really eye opening when it comes to understanding how easily even people we know and used to respect can end up being, again, Nazi adjacent at best. So, in this episode, I could make the entire thing a comment on Mr. K supporting the lie that illegal aliens, quote unquote, are eating cats in Ohio, which is a lie that Trump spread in the debate for the president of the United States. So think about that. That's mind blowing unto itself, right? He spread a viral meme and a lie and a hoax and a racist conspiracy theory in the middle of a national presidential debate. I guess that's a sort of talent of some variety. But it's not something that we really need a president or a former president of the United States to do. It's a hobby, I guess, but not really something that I would want to get into that much. But anyway, that story, long story short, it's based on an instance of a mentally ill woman who was not a Haitian immigrant, and she was apparently someone who, in some sort of uh, you know state of not being mentally well, she killed and started eating a cat. So that part of it actually happened, but again, she was not a Haitian immigrant. And of course, just because one person does something, it doesn't mean everybody like that person would engage in the same behavior. But anyway, Mr. K saw fit to comment on this with a meme depicting Elf, the lovable sitcom alien from the 1980s who ate cats, with the joke, "Remember when illegal aliens who ate cats was fiction? Good times." Well, just another quick debunk related to that particular disgusting meme that Mr. K spread. The vast majority of the Haitian immigrants are actually here legally. So wrap your head around that one. I think a lot of these right wing people are not going to include that little factoid in this, nor will they mention the fact that, in general, the crime rate for immigrants is actually surprisingly low. Like, like I'm basically on the side of undocumented immigrants in general. But I have to say, when I looked at the U.S. border statistics on their official website, the murder rate of undocumented immigrants, or illegals as the MAGA people would call them, it's like there's some years where there were like 2 or 3 murders, and at the most there's like 50 per year on some of these years. So I mean, if if there are really millions and millions and millions streaming across the border so freely, Well, the number of 50 something murders out of all those people is actually substantially low. And in the case of Springfield, Ohio, the crime rate there has not skyrocketed, according to authorities. The cat event happened in a different part of Ohio called Canton. That is a 2 hour and 35-minute drive, or 173.2 miles away from Springfield. So that's actually a distance that's twice as far from where I had to travel to go to jury duty when I was serving on a federal grand jury. That was about 100 miles away. This is even further than that. So it would be, quite a bus ride, if you're interested in that. So once again, right wingers are lying. All right. But to me, the more interesting episode idea is actually about Mr. K's recent multifaceted meme that's tackling a different subject. It's about ivermectin, voter ID, and borders. So I didn't turn to, former Nazis when discussing this particular topic. I consulted ChatGPT again. So I told that AI thingamabob to explain why the MAGA Republican meme is bad, seeing if it can debunk and correct the individual points raised. So the meme in question says ivermectin works in Mexico and just about every country but the US. Voter ID is used all over the world, but applied in the US, it becomes racist. Defending Ukraine's border is good, defending the US border is bad. This level of lying is what you see in full blown dictatorships. So that's the meme, basically. So here's what ChatGPT said in response to my prompt, where I said, hey, could you debunk this? So ChatGPT said, let's break down and address each point from the meme, critically analyzing and debunking where appropriate. So number one, ivermectin works in Mexico and just about every country but the US. So the debunk part of it is the claim that ivermectin works in other countries but not in the US is misleading. Ivermectin was initially considered as a potential treatment for COVID 19, but subsequent studies and meta analyses found no reliable evidence that it works for this purpose. Global health organizations like the World Health Organization, WHO, and the FDA have advised against using ivermectin for COVID 19 because its effectiveness was not scientifically supported. Early anecdotal evidence from countries like Mexico led to its use, but that has since been corrected with better data. The distinction is not about where it works, but rather about the quality of scientific evidence used to approve treatments. The fact that it was used in some countries early on, like Mexico, reflects the uncertainty of the early pandemic, not its actual efficacy. So, boom, once again, ChatGPT actually does a good job. So, you know, my the only thing I would add is, why are they so obsessed with this paste that's used to treat horses? And I do understand that there are some applications that do involve human beings and that actually work, but COVID-19 is not one of them. All right, so that's been demonstrated so many times by now, but these people don't want to admit that they're wrong about anything ever. So, okay, point number two in the meme: voter ID is used all over the world, but applied in the U.S., it becomes racist. So, what was the debunk option for that? Voter ID laws themselves are not inherently racist, but the implementation in the US raises concerns about disenfranchisement. Many other countries with voter ID laws provide universal access to identification, or they issue voter IDs directly, making it easy and free to obtain them. In contrast, in the US, voter ID laws have been criticized because they disproportionately affect minority communities, low income groups, and elderly voters. For some Americans, obtaining a government issued ID can be more difficult due to costs, travel expenses, and bureaucratic hurdles. These barriers can unintentionally, or in some cases intentionally, reduce voter turnout in certain demographic groups. Hence, the critique isn't about the concept of ID laws, but about how they are used in ways that can exacerbate existing inequalities. So, wow, yeah, I really wouldn't have much more to add, but I will say that you can think about it like this. Let's say I lost my state ID or something like that. Now, does that mean I suddenly have a sort of criminal intent when it comes to voting? Does that mean what what does that mean? It means that I've lost my ID, you know, or what if it was stolen or something along those lines, you know? So okay, point number 3: defending Ukraine's border is good, defending the US border is bad. So what is the debunk offered for that? This false equivalence misrepresents the two situations. Ukraine's border is being defended against a large scale military invasion by Russia, which violated international law. The global response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine is largely about defending national sovereignty and preventing aggressive actions that undermine international peace and order. On the other hand, U.S. border issues are mostly about immigration policy. The debate in the U.S. centers around how to balance border security with humanitarian concerns, economic factors, and legal immigration. No mainstream political faction argues that defending the U.S. border is bad, but the conversation focuses on how to manage the border, including how to handle asylum seekers, migrants, and border enforcement in ways that uphold human rights and international obligations. So, yeah, comparing these two very different issues oversimplifies complex geopolitical and domestic policy debates. Yep, that's what I've been basically saying all along. So once again, ChatGPT is actually, hitting the nail on the head. So, yeah. And then what about point number 4? This level of lying is what you see in full-blown dictatorships. Ooh, spooky. So, what's the debunk for that part of the meme? Well, the claim that addressing the previous issues represents the kind of lying seen in dictatorships is an exaggeration and misrepresents the nature of democratic debate. And democracy's different perspectives and policies are hotly contested, and these debates are part of a healthy democratic process. In dictatorships, real lying often involves state controlled propaganda, suppression of free speech, and punishment of dissent. Comparing disagreements over scientific evidence, voter access, or immigration policy to the outright disinformation used in authoritarian regimes is a false equivalence. Healthy democracies thrive on debate, even heated ones, whereas dictatorships suppress debate entirely. So, yeah, that seems a pretty accurate assessment. And once again, the lazy path of using ChatGPT, it it was sufficient. I really don't have much more to add. So, ChatGPT concludes by saying this meme distorts complex issues to create false narratives. It selectively presents facts, omits crucial context, and draws flawed comparisons to exaggerate or mislead on various topics. So, yeah, that's what I find that a lot of these types of memes do. they also intentionally mislead, as far as I can tell. The vast majority of these claims, I think, could be debunked pretty easily, and not just by using ChatGPT, although that could help. But a person could just look into the facts. Like, it's not so difficult. Even when it comes to the ivermectin stuff, you can pretty quickly do a search and see how many mainstream scientists have said that ivermectin is actually an effective treatment. That's not to say that the mainstream is always correct, but when it comes to peer-reviewed studies and things like that, well, the whole reason peer review is valid is because it's not just one person making a claim. They have different people who have studied it, and they agree with the findings, and all that kind of stuff. It's it's just one of the ways that you fact check things when it comes to science, is that there is you know somebody else who looks at it, and they always argue that, well, further study may be needed when it comes to this claim or that claim. And that's really one of the most important aspects of coming to the truth about just about any given topic. You have to be able to say further evidence is needed. And you know what doesn't really say that? A meme on Facebook. So, yes, once again, Mr. K is wrong. I I really look forward to a day where I could look at his Facebook page and say, "Oh, he's actually correct about this." But increasingly, that seems to be a rare sort of phenomenon. But anyway, have a good one.